welcome to Your Questions Answered. I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, joined by the other Dadley Boyz of What Culture. I've still not worked out the intro yet. It's weird being back together. Michael Hamflett, Michael Sidgwick, here to answer your burning...
Born in August?
...wrestling questions. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we review Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. Pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week complete. A bloody good quiz, of course, on Wrestle Culture. As I said, they're joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to answer all of your wrestling questions live on YouTube. Thank you to everyone in the chat already sending in the questions. Let's dive straight into it, lads. Starting off with a question here from Brandon Bethune. Thank you for your donation and for your question, Brandon, who says, welcome back, lads. I heard chat on the SmackDown preview about Mania opponents for Bianca Belair. How about a debuting Jade Cargill?
I don't know if it was Brandon that reached out to me on X about this specifically, but if it wasn't Brandon, I apologise for getting the name of who it was. He said the exact same match off the back of, this. We were talking on SmackDown preview, Sidge, about how every year, without fail, somebody is more by luck than judgment sort of out of the WrestleMania conversation. It was LA Knight last year, when they should be in it.
Yes.
LA Knight last year, it was infamously Bayley at WrestleMania 37, having been without the crowds for so long. And it does awkwardly feel like, of all people, it could be
Miss WrestleMania,
like stadium wrestler extraordinaire Bianca Belair. There's just no obvious program for her at the moment. The Jade Cargill match is obviously captivating. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got this massive star coming across from AEW to wrestle a massive star in WWE in something of a dream match. But the only problem I have with it, it looks fantastic on a poster. It would look aesthetically amazing at WrestleMania. Stadium wrestlers, incredible entrances. That could be and then the bell rings. It could be. Bianca Belair at this point, I think, has it in her to elevate somebody with some of Jade Cargill's limitations. I think WrestleMania is a stage so great that Jade Cargill would shine on it, and maybe they could create something magic, but it would be a very different kind of magic that we've seen Bianca Belair summon on that stage thus far. I would like to keep the big matches coming if I could, the ones that you know can hang with Belair over maybe 20 to 25 minutes. Cargill's got loads to offer. I don't need all my wrestlers to go 25 minutes, and I love what Jade Cargill offers. I don't know. It doesn't feel right this WrestleMania. One down the line, definitely.
Yeah. I'm not sure, because if you go down the line now of wrestlers who are able to carry a Jade Cargill to a lengthy back and forth match, there's not many.
No.
So what you need to do is reconfigure the match around a Jade Cargill. And mirror matches are weird. They don't often work. But if you have them go 8 minutes and they just throw bombs at one another, like they just flex their power over one another, they trade and struggle through and try and avoid or power out of like power spots and feats of strength and all of the rest of it. I think, like, if I'm an agent and I'm one of Jade or Bianca, I'm really wanting to get my teeth into this kind of match. It's something a bit different. God knows, like, we've talked about it ad nauseum over the pods over the last year, like the shelf life of the back and forth great match, capital G, capital M. You know, there's a new way of doing things, and there has to be. It's getting a bit boring. Like, great has long been normalized as good for me. 8 to 10 minutes of this, I think it'd be absolutely class. So I'm well on board with it.
I could also see, I don't want to worry people because I think this pitch might trouble a few. I'm just trying to look at the layout right now. I could easily see Bianca Belair joining forces with her husband. Obviously, there's going to be loads of co-promotion for that show anyway, heading into WrestleMania. You, I think, pitched that. I think a tremendous idea of them as hosts this year, because it has become its own little big-time role, although I appreciate that.
Not necessarily what I wanted to do, but I could easily see them doing it.
I can see them doing it, which is regrettable because, as we've just mentioned, Belair is incredible at stadium wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, her hit rate at WrestleMania positively embarrasses a lot of wrestlers who are considered greats who have stunk up WrestleMania in a stadium.
I absolutely loved her and Becky at SummerSlam as well. The sequel to the original WrestleMania match. Fits the venue.
And Montez Ford is well overdue something of real substance at a WrestleMania, and indeed just in general.
Do you want my pitch for Bianca Belair's opponent?
I feel like I'm going to get it anyway.
WrestleMania, you are. 1 Tiffany Stratton. Thoughts?
Thoughts are you do not necessarily want to see the match. You just kind of in that moment wanted to do the voice.
I did actually want to see the match. I think it's the way that Tiffany's had
again. It's pretty basic but compelling, I guess. Story of I'm the best new super athlete. I'm here to take your throne. Let's have a bloody bare knuckle fight then.
DJ Rando Tampa Bay says, "Thank God Sidgwick is back. He definitely keeps the other two grounded."
Try.
Someone's been listening to last week's podcast.
I don't know to what he's referring, but it is nice to have him back all the same.
Speaking of nice to have him back, Steve Nikolakopoulos in the chat. Thank you, Steve, as always.
You just love getting the name right.
I've been practicing. Edward Shiraz Hands, of course, formerly. He writes, "Good day, handsome gents. Merry Christmas. Happy first Christmas to Eric. Simple question."
Thanks, Jay White.
Simple question. Who is someone that used to suck and now they don't suck no more? Surely has to be that Seven bloke from WCW, says Steve.
Loads of people used to suck and don't suck no more. Like, the more wrestling you watch, the longer you watch it, you realise everyone can always come around. There was definitely a period where Matt Hardy was good. Definitely. Like... I would say the original version 1. It's like, I don't need any Matt Hardy in my life, and then V1 explodes on SmackDown. It's like, that's good, good for him. So like, everyone can have these ups and downs. I think this conversation is going to go away because he's become so like decent that I think people will just stop talking about the improvement rate. It's Dirty Dom for me. Like, Dominic Mysterio's appeal used to be that he shouldn't have been a wrestler, and we always said like what happens when he figures the basics out, you're in a lot of trouble. And I've been so impressed at how he's not only just figured out the basics as a wrestler, but he's maintained the characteristics of a man that hasn't. And that's talent. Mm-hmm. I think Dominic Mysterio at this point is probably underrated in how hard he is trying and succeeding versus once upon a time when it was like, he's rubbish, this is a really good laugh. Like, I don't imagine that like it hurts getting house show runs against Punk, and I'm sure there's a lot of privilege that comes with being Rey Mysterio's kid, and a lot of people want to help him along the way. We've already seen that with Rey and Edge themselves. But yeah, I think Dominic Mysterio has improved in a way that I just simply would have never believed. Like, he is competent. He knows where to put himself. I think he's
half the time.
I think his heel timing is excellent. I think his origin story of being so useless, right, has put him leaps and bounds above the over-drilled escapees of the Performance Center. Like, honestly, there are some wrestlers that are drilled too much in the Performance Center and do everything in such a way that you can predict and you can see coming. And I would separate Dominic Mysterio from a lot of them. I also think he's been one of the biggest benefactors of the fluidity with the NXT in the main roster.
Beneficiaries.
Because when he went back to NXT, he drew. And
he's a big draw.
And you saw his confidence swell. Like, he shouldn't have been one of the ones to come back from the main roster. It's like, whoa, Dirty Dom's here. Should have been the opposite, if anything. You know, like the NXT regulars, should be like this, like the story they tell you, this creep, like damaging the legacy of the title. But it's like, whoa, Dominic Mysterio's in the building. Like, I think the confidence started to show on him there as well. I really enjoyed his NXT run. Becoming a bit of a hand. I think Dominic Mysterio, quite remarkable.
It would be hyperbole to suggest that this performer sucked. And part of the problem with this question is that nowadays you either get drilled into being competent or you arrive on TV as a prodigy, depending on whether you're in WWE or AEW. Very rarely, and I don't want to punch down because there are some at the top of my head, very rarely do you get someone on television who's just outright terrible. Outright terrible. There are quite a few in both promotions, and they haven't improved yet, so they will not be the answer to this question. But they are more rule-proving exceptions to this Suzuki 7 out of 10 new age wrestler.
You've got to be real special to be a Gable Steeson in 2024.
True. I didn't see much in Commander for a while. I think that he just came around at the exact same time as Vikingo and didn't look as spectacular, and I think he suffered the fate of comparison. And I think that he's had matches where it was all very spotty and some of his stuff just didn't look like it connected at all. I think he had a match with Jay White. Dave went 4 on it, but what does he not go 4 on nowadays? You know, it's true.
Yeah, I can think of one thing.
What's that?
It was a match at Wembley.
Oh, yes. But Commander on AEW and ROH TV recently has been absolutely class. Like genuinely really, really good. A lot tighter. He's not just putting his things that he gets over via MP4s kind of together in matches. Like, he's really starting to become a proper great wrestler, I think, Commander. I don't think he sucked. I just think he was put on TV a little bit too soon, but he's getting really good now, to the point where fans don't care how often he loses, which is virtually every single time. He's just over because he's impressing consistently.
Do you know one that I took a lot of... I didn't take a lot of selling on, but I just felt like I was watching him get it, quite honestly. Maybe this is just a Fed Pill take, I don't know, because he's so lovely and everybody loves him. I never really rated Adam Cole, and then I think he got it in NXT. Genuinely. Like, I can't remember at the time what the general consensus on him was, but he'd been a Ring of Honor World Champion. He looked like they were signing the finished article, and I was kind of nonplussed by that finished article. And the real finished article showed himself in NXT for me, truly. And he speaks of that system helping him, so maybe he even thinks that, in a massive Shawn Michaels fan that he is. I never really saw the, he had all the charisma, and I didn't mind, like some people do, the fact that even as a heel, he was getting this biggest pop of the night with his act and his entrance and all that, but just, I never saw him really putting the matches together in Ring of Honor, and that became kind of one of his calling cards in NXT, really. Not many did as many of those long, dramatic NXT. He killed it in the end, the Kyle O'Reilly match, the last Gargano match. There were duds in there, but I never would have imagined you would have gotten a TakeOver New York match out of the ROH Adam Cole.
One more on this. Samoa Joe. I remember distinctly when he was pretty much on the outs at WWE, and he was basically written off. And then when he came back, he had the match with Karrion Kross, and it was turgid. And yet people, not me, kept saying, can he go to AEW? Oh, will he sign for AEW? People with really long, loyal memories of how much of an awesome unit. He was so great in 2005, Joe. It was disgusting how great he was. And I always said on these pods, that's one signing too far. He's not the same. Blah, blah, blah.
Finished.
I thought he was finished. The man has done a remarkable job. I don't think he ever sucked. Don't take it out of context. But my God, he's rediscovered his mojo.
It was okay to be on the downswing. It's okay at his age and experience to be on the downswing.
A shocking number of gentlemen's threes. A shocking number of gentlemen's threes. But I think his cardio's improved, his confidence, his aura. He's genuinely I want to kind of see a lengthy reign out of him now. Joe versus Mox. Sign me up for that.
I don't think we'll get it.
No,
I'm sad I don't think we will, but Joe versus Mox would be tremendous. Joe versus Page would be tremendous. Dude, Joe versus Darby again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's loads they can do with him.
I'd have to say Nia Jax.
Yeah, we'll hear it right now.
Because you used to hate her, didn't you?
Despised her, yeah. And now I think she's awesome. She had arguably the match of the year on day one at the time. Right, let's dive into some more questions.
What's the first match on Raw, wasn't it? First match on the first day of the year. Well, not getting better than this. Shut it up.
Sito freaking Kyber says, hello, my fellow wrestling enthusiasts. I hope you all had a great new year. I was wondering, did the Dadley Boyz see Obafemi versus Riley Osborne last week on NXT?
Yeah, I did. I'm in love with that guy.
Just a part two, what do you think is the ceiling for both men, but more specifically Obafemi in the Fed? Obviously, he's got a title shot off, spoilers, of the title off winning the breakout tournament, and we kind of called it from the first moment we saw him. He's terrifying.
He's an absolute force of nature. He's got that. There's a certain sect, wrestling fans, I'm one of them, who it's the production, it's the commentary, it's the presentation, it's the fake, it's very WWE-ness of it all, where there's obviously some great wrestling on there. There are sometimes some great promos on there. Just the general WWE-ness of it all kind of just puts people off. Some people, not all. Certainly not this guy.
Certainly not the viewers last week either.
No,
Jesus.
Good number, didn't it?
Obafemi has that ability. You know who had it for years? Totally different wrestler. Asuka, for me, even during the worst of the Vince years, the Twilight years, she just transcended it for me. There's certain wrestlers who I'm just struck by watching them, even within the context of WWE and the general WWE-ness of it all. Obafemi just smashes through that that veneer for me. I just love watching him in any context whatsoever. He's obviously very raw, but my God, What an absolute unit. Like, genuinely, strictest definition of the word, like, awesome. Like, he inspires awe within me when I watch him go.
Yeah, it's the hope that kills me a little bit with Obafemi, because I don't want
to see himself for 15 minutes in back and forth matches.
Word for word. But like, if that wasn't what I was thinking, it's certainly, like another problem with the Performance Centre that I'd like to think they're ironing out, but then, there's not enough, I don't think there's enough evidence yet to suggest they've accepted that you don't need one wrestler or one wrestler type supplanted on all your wrestlers. You need multiple wrestler types, and that's what this Performance Centre, I'm thinking of all things, the Next in Line program seems to have really helped in that regard. Like, you're bringing athletes in with different athletic backgrounds that will use that. Like, Tiffany Stratton 5 years ago would have been expected to be at like an Asuka or a Horsewoman level technical standard or nothing. It was that was what was needed in Triple H's mind, in WWE's mind, out of a women's wrestler. And if you weren't that, you were now. Ronda Rousey was someone that could transcend it with star power. But where does the Stratton fit in? It's like, no, she's a super athlete. She's a gymnast. Fold that into find the things that work best and get her to get her fundamentals. But
great fundamentals.
Folding in the gymnastic fundamentals, and that's how you should use Next in Line. And for someone like an Obafemi,
reckless boy,
don't change too much of what you've got. Don't let him remain a bit rough around the edges. The breakout tournament has got a reasonable history with, they're quite predictable, but it's because they exist to focus on one or two. In this case, I would say both finalists, where these are the best, right? These are the ones they're telling you, pay attention to these two. It's NXT, you're supposed to pay attention to everybody, but there's still a hierarchy there everywhere else. And it's quite exciting. They're already, by winning this tournament, it doesn't feel like they're going to mess around too much with Obafemi. That's cool.
I really like Riley Osborne as well. We'll talk more about these, of course, on the NXT preview tomorrow. I just hope Riley Osborne can, after his unfortunate loss in the final, find a shoulder to cry on. Let's move on. We've got a question here from one Matt Rains, who says, "Oh my God, is that the damn Dadleys? Welcome back, King." I assume that's dedicated to you. Great showing in the Cup over the weekend. As for Dr. Fed, that's directed to you. I believe his words, not mine. He's donated, so I have to read this.
Yeah, I bet you do.
As for Dr. Fed, I believe Isaac prescribed a double dose of these nuts. The reason I've read out Matt Rain's comment is not just because of that, but because he's asked a question that a lot of people are talking about, and we talked a lot about on wrestle culture as well. So I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Very simple question here, says Matt. How do we get to Cody beating Roman in the main event of WrestleMania? Because that's how the story gets finished.
I don't know. It's weird. It's interesting. There's equal parts copium being huffed and schadenfreude being thrown about and perverse enjoyment of, Cody's not going to finish the story and all the rest of it. I simply do not know. If it was up to me, I would have Cody finish the story. Because one, he's selling tickets out the ass. He's just a wonderful babyface, and it will just continue to secure that long-term investment that Triple H has been very, very quietly building up for a long, long time.
Did you see the wrestling class thing?
What?
Did you see the wrestling, the Scott's Tots in real life, basically?
Yeah.
He's telling them, I'm John Cena. I've shown you it with all of these numbers, with all of these matches, with this entire act. I'm now telling you, I'm paying for this sentimental favorite wrestling class thing just to all go to WrestleMania. If you haven't seen it, flights, hotels, tickets for an entire class of kids. I'm John Cena, WWE, I'm ready. Yeah. Can you let me be John Cena now?
Yeah. It's just weird because I just cannot foresee The Rock doing Australia.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
I just cannot see it.
I want to believe the big bag of money from the Australian, we have The Rock, please. I want to believe that narrative, but it's because I'm stressed about Cody not finishing the story.
I think Andy's hit the nail on the head this morning on the news. I think he's right saying Roman Rock night one for the head of the table, not for the title, just for the role in the bloodline or whatever that may be, however you work that out. Night two, Cody versus Roman for all the belts. And I said off the back of that, they say to Phil, to CM Punk, I know Dwayne's in the main event of WrestleMania, but if you be good for a year, maybe you can get there at 41.
No, I love that. Is it we talked about this on Wrestle Culture, that exact thing. That is the Triple H man management equivalent of the 4:59 on a Friday email. You all right, Paul? Yeah, I've got to go and have a chat with Punk and Seth Rollins and tell them they're not in the main event.
Yeah.
Like those two men specifically are not having their main event. Like that's man management. How are you at this?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to lose him to AEW, and you're not going to lose him to Kickoff because you've just managed this incredibly delicate situation because it's a business, guys, and we're chasing the money and all that.
It's fascinating because there's a lot of things I cannot see. I cannot see The Rock doing Australia. Mm-hmm. It's one of those where you do this, Matt Reigns. Thank you. What? Process of elimination here. What can't you see? Take away everything that just probably isn't going to happen because you can't see it, and you're left with what you can see, right? Cannot see The Rock doing Australia when all of America will be asleep. And it's like the one before the big one. I just don't think it's star billing.
It's big, like. It's just,
It's kind of big, right?
In the stadium or something?
But the thing is,
yeah.
like, The Rock has transcended Saudi money about, 15 years ago with Hollywood money? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like The Rock is getting more for one of his lesser hits, right? Khaki, Top in the Jungle, whatever. 4. He's getting way more money for one of his lesser hits, right, than Shawn Michaels would to get coaxed out of retirement. Mm-hmm. So I cannot see The Rock doing international PLE given to WWE by where it's hosted, whether it's Australia or Saudi. He earns way more money than that, right? You can get a Shawn Michaels out of retirement with that kind of money. You get Goldberg doing matches. You get The Undertaker disgraced himself with that level of money. But The Rock transcended that.
It turns out you can do that for less.
The Rock transcended that money a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I cannot see The Rock doing Australia. I'm not connected that much. I'm not saying he won't. I'm just saying I can't see that, right? I can't see Roman Reigns doing back-to-back matches.
Me neither.
You can't even get the fucker on SmackDown.
Yeah. The night one night, the only way I could see it as well, like that, like the fight ahead of the tape, like, who really gives a shit, you know? Like, at least put the belt on the line against The Rock on night one. At least it'd be like, and then, like, I think if you have to do night one, night two, which I'm with Usage, I don't buy it. I don't see Roman working twice.
Can't see him doing that.
I think the little Wrestle Kingdom mini tournament is Cody beats Cena, Roman beats Rock. Like,
Okay.
champion versus challenger night 2. I don't even need to call it champion versus challenger. Cody could win the Rumble as well. But it's like, you know, only am I going to ascend to be John Cena the night before. I'm going to beat John Cena. You know, like I think there's a reason for them both to work.
Yeah.
It's all feels like a compromise to me because of Da Rock. All of these are compromises.
Fine by me.
But he is a man that drives those compromises.
Yeah.
This is the thing I like. I'm sort of in two minds because it's the root of this is how I want wrestling to be. A star's turned up, and you put some people at the back of the line because the star's here. Like, I still believe ultimately that's how you. But Triple H has a plate spinning act here because basically WrestleMania became reliant on that mentality to a fault, and 39 was the first time where he was like, nope. Like, this is my show, my card.
And 40 was better than them.
And it was better than them. And 40 is the opportunity to sort of luxuriate in all of that 18 months later.
40 technical classic main event history.
The lore of the zero WrestleManias, you know, like the...
If I had to put money on it, I would say Cody's not finishing the story. I hate that. But if they say you got 20 quid, what's going on? I don't think he's finishing that story.
I'd said this to these on the podcast last week. I was watching Raw live, day one. Rock's out there, and somebody tweeted, and I'll have to find this tweet so I can finally put them over because it's such a great tweet. It was like in quotation marks. How's Cody Rhodes going to get Omos off his feet? It's like, oh, God.
I love Cody.
Yeah.
Love him.
Mad Mike makes a good point in the comments, saying we got Rock Hogan 2 and No Way Out before Mania, so there might be a chance.
Well, it was 2 though, wasn't it? It was a sequel.
It's a sequel.
It was a cartoon on purpose because Hollywood Rock was back.
They were both in and around.
Yeah.
They both had a ceiling in wrestling at the time, I guess.
The Rock wasn't like really gone. Like, you could
It took a while for Rock to get big in Hollywood as well.
Yeah, like when he left in 2004, it was some daft thing like WWE somehow let his contract lapse, and they'd lost faith in him making it. They expected him to come back because he was kind of picking the wrong films, wasn't he? You know, like he was trying to...
Took a while.
Yeah.
Shout out to badly drawn Kyle in the comments, who says, I've got 10 minutes until I have a meeting for work, so I figured I'd jump in and support while I can. Love the content. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
And speaking of people watching at work, Pedro Ramos Jr. says, Pedro from New York watching while working at my desk. Good work, Pedro. I have a question. This is probably more for you, Sige. Is this finally the year that the AEW women's division gets the spotlight it deserves with Perazzo and possibly Mercedes Moné, of course, coming in?
I've seen a lot of takes to this effect. They are investing quite heavily in character and a story with Mariah May. You got Toni Storm, who's getting top of the hour. That's big for AEW women's division, okay? Julia Hart and Sky Blue have kind of transcended that, I would call it the Anna Jay role of you're on telly and then 6 weeks go by and then, you might go on telly again. They are kind of regulars now. I think Collision has helped like incrementally in that regard. I'm not putting it over. It's bare minimum stuff, if that, right? Then you got Jamie Hayter potentially coming back.
Serena Deeb's comeback
Serena
vignettes.
Deeb's getting the vignette treatment. Jamie Hayter. Britt Baker's always there in the background, I think. I don't know what that relationship looks like these days. And then you've got the Moné, you've got the Perazzo. I quite like the Perazzo Mariah May stuff. They've actually built a reason for a match to exist rather than 5 minutes before 8-7 Central. Here's a winner versus loser match, you know what I mean? Like, they've built something. They've given a character a reason to resent another character that isn't, it's Emi Sakura going for the belt. And I love Emi Sakura.
It was 2 as well, because Mariah May was like, I'm not a messenger. And Toni Storm had said on that Dynamite, I don't watch wrestling. So there's the believable.
Yeah.
She's not even spotting that Mariah May is ready to take her place.
Like, if I was in any way a glass half full, optimistic guy, I would look at this and think there's a compelling set of evidence being yielded that things are on the rise, that they are starting to care, that they have the talent pool to pull this off, maybe. And then I watch an episode of AEW television, and there's only one women's thing really on it. It's pointless having the bodies if you don't have the time. There was I hate misquoting people, so I don't want to say which prominent wrestling journalist who gets it right more often than not. I think you know who I'm talking about.
This guy right here, probably. The only
Said
one.
that were Mercedes money to arrive in AEW, it would be the Mercedes segment and then bonus women content on top of that. I really hope that's the case.
Well, it should be. The money
It should have been all along. Should have at least 2.
The money that is being rumoured, and obviously the money that apparently WWE didn't want to pay, would suggest that you absolutely have to do that because you've invested.
Yeah.
It's on AEW if they pay all that to get her, just to say, we got her. WWE couldn't get her, we got her. And then she just immediately slots into the treadmill within 3 months.
Yeah.
That's on them then, isn't it? For wasting their money and wasting their money. So I hope she's the one. I can't think of a single women's wrestler in North America that could drive them to do that.
Yeah, this is true. Other than Becky Lynch, but
Yeah.
put it this way, right? There's been every excuse in the book for AEW to not really commit to the women's division. I used to use some of them in good faith, like the Joshi import stuff was paid to by the Global Bastard, and they were left with a lot of green talent, so they couldn't really do it then. And there was injuries, and then got all these great blokes like Danielson and CM Punk. So I had to put them on telly more than anybody else. The roster that they are assembling now is getting really quite strong, like really quite strong. There'll be no excuse now. If they get Moné, Perazzo, Hayter, Deeb, this version of Storm, the Mariah May thing cooking, like the improvements made
Call up
by
Athena tomorrow if you want.
Athena, the improvements made by Sky Blue and Julia Hart, like they would be really left with no excuse whatsoever if they can't get a good division around the roster. 2 different things. This roster is really starting to look strong now. No excuse whatsoever. They haven't had an excuse for years, in my opinion. For well over half the lifespan of the promotion now, there'll be no excuses if they can't do anything compelling out of this.
OG Stem Cell says...
Statlander.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Statlander and Willow
Nightingale. And there's so much great talent that's actually over with the audience now.
They've put that, it feels to me like they've put that, is it the TV title they call it, Ring of Honor? I think that's to put a belt on Billy Starks because she couldn't beat Athena.
Yeah.
And to build to that, so you're already kind of strapping up who you believe is going to be a next big talent underneath. There's, does feel like the moves are being made, but, it's felt like that a few times before, hasn't it?
Another question comes in from OG Stem Cell, who says, morning, gentlemen. Glad to have the live Mondays back. If you had to guess the champions at the end of 2024 in each company, what are your predictions?
Oh, bloody hell. Bloody hell. What
We
do
don't
you
have to
do
do all the
first?
belts because, Jesus Christ.
I'm going to be optimistic and say Cody is the WWE champion. Probably
At the
as
end of the year?
WrestleMania. Yeah.
Not.
Gunther for me.
Yeah, I was going to say not him taking it
Beat
off
him
him.
in Bash at Berlin maybe or something. I think Cody, because I think when he does finish the story, I'm sticking. I think it'll be WrestleMania. And I think he'll have like Triple H likes his long reigns, believes in establishing these champions. Cena's first reign, if you remember, went through to the January when Edge cashed in on him. So I could see Cody going along with it. I'd love it if Gunther was still the Intercontinental champion. I think they've done something pretty magic if he's holding on to that belt. Who was it we were talking? Was it Punk? We were talking on a podcast about like to give Punk like an IC title, but then it's just the IC. But then I was saying like, well, the whole point of Gunther actually doing what all those champions said and restoring it is that it's supposed to be big. So if Gunther is to lose it, and then all of a sudden we just go back to talking about the IC title, like, oh God, he's winning the IC, and it didn't actually. Project Gunther didn't work, so it's supposed to be big again, if not Gunther. Creeds with the tags, I'll take in the Fed as well.
Punk with the World Heavyweight at the end of the year.
Will he be there?
I don't know.
No, I think he'll be there.
He's going to be there for 3 years and then decide if he wishes to sign a contract extension. But I don't know. I can't. I'm captivated by what I don't know about the CM Punk run. Does he just win the belt at WrestleMania? Is it as simple as that? It's a contract year for Seth. Might they both sides be trying to play hardball with each other? I think so. I think like if you can put a belt on CM Punk at WrestleMania, you do it. But I don't know. I can't figure that out yet. I think post Rumble we'll get to see maybe what CM Punk's year is going to look like.
Women's titles?
It sort of depends if they can. I think there's some of the same things we said about AEW can be applied to WWE.
You're going to sound like a broken record here. Tiffany Stratton.
Stratton's going to have a good year.
Wins Money in the Bank. Cashes in.
You're obsessed.
I'll
Cashing in the same night.
Not the same night.
Well, we know how it works, pal.
Yeah.
Sentimental. If she sticks around, I have loved Becky Lynch's work so much since she came back in 2021 that I would like her to be a champion again. So just from a heart overhead, I don't know whether
I think Rhea should beat her
You think Rhea beats her
at Mania, but then she could later in the year have it. AEW. Joe, I don't think it's in for a long reign. Will Ospreay.
Wembley?
Will Ospreay is going to win it at Wembley.
Joe to swerve to Ospreay?
Yes. Seems like it's the way it's going to happen. Will Ospreay is going to win that belt at Mania.
House coming out as the champion at Wembley.
The whole idea, I don't necessarily believe this, but the consensus is that Will Ospreay is the best professional wrestler in the world, and I think they will belt him up and really, really go with him. So Will Ospreay of the 40 mid-card titles.
Say, let's set a new podcast aside to do every title. Eddie Kingston apparently defends them as individuals. I didn't know this.
What?
They're individual. Like he's defending his.
I thought
like,
it was a crown. I thought it was a whole.
No, forget that now. Like that was just a belt. He's got 3 different ones, and they are on the line in different matches. His strong match he's got coming up.
Gabriel Kidd.
Yeah, just for the strong title. Saturdays at Collision was just for the new belt. It wasn't for the modern American Triple Crown. It was just for the.
But they called it the Continental Crown.
It's not for. No, it's just that belt. So he would keep the Ring of Honor title and he would keep the New Japan strong.
That's pretty ridiculous.
Let's hope they don't do like a Night of Champions.
It's just
Jesus Christ, 3 matches.
It's a hard question at the best of times because you have to do permutations, and then you have to like sort of anticipate who's going to get over. You have to be cynical and think, is that person really, really the one for the spot? A tag team division looks weird in AEW. Like, did the Young Bucks come back? Do the Young Bucks do something, anything other than lean in on their meta reputation? Can they become characters again? Can they get the bit between the teeth again?
Hardy Boys are reinventing themselves.
Shut the fuck up. They reinvent themselves as people who can move and do good matches. That would be a good reinvention for me personally.
Books. You know what?
Personally speaking, just from my heart,
when that's the first
if the Hardy Boys can reinvent themselves into wrestlers who can move, that would be good.
Nicholas, just a quick update. 8-6 so far on the swear counter.
Little bastards.
You know that when Meltzer first reported the killing the business, all that kind of stuff, and it was like, they're going to be troll heels, you're going to love it. Like, it would be a pretty troll move to be like, introducing our friends, the Hardy Boys. We're not going to wrestle again, we're super stable, if anything.
like a big long-running meta bit. How they'd have best of 52 series against the Hardy Boys.
My problem with the Young Bucks is I'm kind of lost on their sort of history heading in towards, when the formation of AEW. If there was a way I could, like the Matrix, and put it in their brain.
Yeah.
If I could do that, but in the form of 120,000 passionate and insightful words. Whoa! What the hell? From the book hole. What you got this?
It's in your brain now.
Oh,
it's becoming all of
it.
That's the noise you make when an entire book goes in your brain. Well,
The rise of AEW, all about the formation,
Brilliant,
and indeed rise of AEW when it was goated.
How will I know it's got the Young Bucks in it? That's the problem I've got there.
What do you mean? Well, they're on the cover.
They're on the cover, yeah.
They're on the cover. They founded the company. First person he called, Matt Jackson.
When I want to form a wrestling company, he's the one who calls.
Shout out to Michael Laverley, who said just make a censor button on the soundboard to save time. And also, Michael sent us a joke earlier. I forgot to read this. One question, one joke for you guys. Michael says, what's the difference between Adam and a virgin? Nothing. It's the same thing. See you later, guys. I've got a child, so that can't be true. Actually, you're probably wrong there, if anything. And Adam's microphone in the chat also says, is Hamflet's ham page review on a different feed?
My ham page review.
Yeah, apparently that's going to be a thing in 2024.
God, imagine that. Imagine reviewing Rampage.
Did you see the lineup this week?
No.
I saw the graphic drop.
Yeah, looks like ass. the young Bucks, the Hardy Boys. God, how far they've fallen. How far they've fallen. I think the Hardys were a trios match or something.
Right.
Forget who they teamed with.
Butcher and the Blade and Kip Sabian.
Versus the Hardys and someone else.
Yeah, who the hell would that have been?
I'll have a look.
Anyway.
Be funny if, Private Party, when everybody used to leave, Moxley, and we had them recently, the cliched Escape from Prison vignette. Private Party did one just for leaving the Hardy Boys.
Escape from the Hardy compound.
It was Mark Briscoe and the Hardys versus Kip Sabian.
Oh, Christ.
Poor Mark Briscoe.
Yeah.
So they did this thing with the Hardys where they completely botched their asses through this pretty poor trios match. And then the story in parallel is... the GOATs, actually. So we deserve more respect here because you're crap.
What's Mark Briscoe done to get sucked into that?
I know.
Other than have a great Continental Classic. Here's your reward.
I know. Here's your reward for pretty much saving the Gold League, if we're being honest.
Captain Quinn, no word on whether that's Niall in the chat, says, don't you think Sunderland overdid the warm welcome with an own goal?
Yeah, we overdid the warm welcome in every regard. Me and Sidgwick, shithouse amnesty. Which is good, healthy, I think. Made us both feel better in the run-up. Certainly.
Yes.
What happened on Saturday was which is a little bit on this, was a very Premier League versus Championship game of football, of which there can be no complaints. As a Sunderland fan, beaten handily and well by a much, much, much better team. The red carpet welcome from Wednesday through to pretty much the game itself.
And afterwards, they got free drinks.
Well,
the Wi-Fi went down in the Sunderland bar, which the Newcastle fans...
that shocked me because I've been in that ground and it's never been up. So,
Is it called the Wi-Fi or just...
Hey? Never off.
So they couldn't process the payments, so they just gave them free beer.
Great.
After giving them the use of the
Was there
bar,
less
the use
trouble
of the
at least?
stand.
There was no trouble. And
I've got a video to show you. There was some trouble.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
There was there was no bother outside the ground or anything, which on the back of the result, I'm not really surprised about because there was nothing.
I saw a tiny clip of a Sunderland fans saying, you outside later, basically.
It was, I had a few mates that were at the game that said that there was minimal fuss, minimal bother. But an observation from one of my friends was some of those tickets, one of the reasons Sunderland were rolling out the red carpet was because they were just cashing in, which is gross. But some of the Newcastle fans that could afford to go were ruling out some that probably would have really wanted to. The thing that was went underreported a little bit was these tickets for this bar that was being decked out in Newcastle stuff, £600 a shot or something. You can afford that. So that why there's probably no
you're
trouble.
going to see the cribs about 5 times a year.
It's 'cause they still only charge £20. It's like the old Roy Keaneism. There was a prawn sandwich contingent that I think got the opportunity to go that was taken off people that would have rather have gone. Now, those people that would have rather have gone might have been a bit more invested, and thus there might have been a bit more trouble. But it wasn't a game for trouble, was it?
Nah.
Just clear something up. Southern Kumar says it's a shame you're not doing the SmackDown review. I get it's the weekend, but it's the first thing you guys should do. We did it, and we don't do it on the video channel, but it is available, just like our Collision previews and reviews are available as a podcast right now. What Culture Wrestling podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. So I hope that clears that up for you. Marcel Laviolette says, the boys are back in town. Happy New Year. Yeah. Happy New Year to Sagewick, Wilborn, and Dr. Fed himself.
Doctor.
I didn't expect this to take, but I like it. It's sticking. I love that.
You didn't expect it to take. You put it on your Twitter.
I know, because I wanted it to.
You just didn't expect it.
Okay. What would you prefer for Okada Danielson 3, Dominion or Forbidden Door?
For it to not happen?
Yeah, Dominion. If it has to happen, Dominion.
I don't want it to happen.
I think the new aesthetic was massively, massively helpful.
Okay.
Dirty Little Secret, I think the chemistry is just fine.
Dirty Little Secret, I thought was an old world 4.5-star match that I never. There were certain elements of it I loved. Right, I don't want to piss on anyone's chip. Certainly not yours, Marcel. It's a very lovely, loyal follower of ours, a listener. I never once got the feeling, oh Christ, this is amazing. I'm so grateful to have it. I'm watching one of the best things I've ever seen. I just didn't get it. I didn't get the same vibe from Omega Ospreay of, well, what a year we're in for, in the ring at least, if something is as good as this last year. There was one moment where they didn't get this in the first match, but they got it in this one, where I couldn't see the drop kick coming. And then Okada did the drop kick, and then Danielson just fired up a no-soul. Oh my God. I mean, it wasn't ripped off, cack. It was hanging on by a thread. But I didn't rip it off, you know?
You're not ripping it off. What are we doing here?
I know. If I'm not ripping off my cock, my cack. I just thought it was... Standards are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're more up on these details than me as well. On Okada Danielson happening again, and the assumption that it will, because, you know, there's got to be a decider now at least. What about all that talk before Christmas about Okada's contract? Is January not contract season for the big news lads? And is it, are we making...
Tonga's leaving in a couple of weeks.
And they've said as much, hasn't it? Like, are we led to believe off the back of the booking of this that this is a quiet reveal that Okada's at least sticking around for another year or something? Because before Christmas, it was all better off, weren't they? And it was
yeah. I'm not sure. All I know is that they did the shaking hands and the bow to one another, like a wonderful post-match. I feel like it was the best possible version of 50-50 booking. We got it with Omega Ospreay.
Yeah.
We got it with this. Like, the whole point is, if you have this dream match, it's like, can you brother me up? 1-1, call it a draw. But get 2 matches. We each get a win. We both come out with it, like, as good as or better. A good bit of like boring politics, really.
Yeah.
I would leave it at that personally.
Would you rather Okada?
But I'm on an island with this. People love this second match.
I've seen it. Like, well, Meltzer went 5+ on it, didn't he? And like some people have caught it in the match of the year. So
is your thing, I suppose, with Danielson? I know
Takeshita Allen better.
Agree. Best match this year so far. Even better than stuff on day one. Like,
sorry, Wilbur, what were you going to say?
Yeah, my question to you is, I know he's not retiring, but obviously this is his last full-time active year. Yeah. As a result of that with Danielson, are you like, well, whatever we're doing at Forbidden Door, I don't want it to be a rematch?
I want Danielson versus Darby Allin. Not at Forbidden Door.
But yeah.
Who would I... Oh. You know what? Another match that people... It's like, it was years ago now, they went crazy for, and I was like, it's good. Very good. Not a classic. Danielson and Shingo. I want to see that ram back. I thought the first match was very, very, very good. Not one of the all-time classics of the Danielson library. I'd love to see that again.
I took that in my Shingo education.
Yeah.
To learn a bit more
I mean,
about
it's
Shingo.
pretty class.
Yeah, it's great.
It's pretty class. But I don't think it's one of the very best Danielson matches.
Because he reeled off a whole host of names, didn't he?
Yeah.
Ishii, Naito, I think.
They were going to do Danielson Ishii, you know. You know, when it was Mox versus Ishii. Was it after Forbidden Door? When they just did it on Dynamite.
Yeah.
It was going to be Danielson Ishii, but obviously Danielson got his arm broke.
I believe Danielson's lying, by the way. So I think he's
lying.
He's lying. I think it could be his like last full-time year in his head, but he determines what a full-time year is, and he just carries on wrestling. So I
think he's even clarified as much. I think he said
he's doing 5 to 10 a year.
6 to 8. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so that's like more than Roman Reigns in an average year. So
yeah,
be like,
it's not the average like Dynamite run. Takeshita does less than that.
I think this whole retirement thing has been overstated. Smartly, by the way, to sell some tickets and up some stakes and prestige and all that. Like, Wembley suddenly feels bigger as if it might be his last one. It won't. Like, I just don't believe any of this. Like, does he include in his last year? Oh, yeah, I meant like till December, so I'll see you in the G1.
Danielson Ishii
Fiscal
for
year,
me.
man, actually. Moving into 2025.
Of anyone on that New Japan roster, I want to see the Shingo match again. I think they can do better. But out of, if I had to pick anyone, it would be Danielson Ishii for Forbidden Door.
Spirited Sights says, hello, gents.
Hello.
Thank you for your first super chat, by the way, Spirited Sights. Thank you for all that you do. With Dustin Rhodes' recent return in AEW, it made me wonder, how does he finish his career if he stays in AEW?
Ooh.
He doesn't. I would. He's old school, and it's hard not to. Like, if Cody's sticking around in WWE, this is assuming that things are all good there, and he does stay the course with WWE now. I could well see Dustin Rhodes going back there and just having, or at least having the option to use him as and when you want, because he's so valuable in small doses at this point. I would imagine he'd want to do business the right way and put somebody over huge on the way out. And we've seen Dustin Rhodes' ability to get people over in the way that he gets beaten down, like squeezing blood out of his head like it was Play-Doh coming through that Fun Factory when Lance Archer's boot was pressed on him. The first 30 seconds of the Swerve beatdown, if you discount the following 10 minutes. Like, there are ways to, like, for Dustin Rhodes now to be used, and I would say he'd probably welcome that too.
I would rip off the Ric Flair WWE thing.
Yeah, that's nice.
Next time you lose, you're out.
Yeah.
Next time
doesn't
you
have to be a
lose,
headline
you
match, does it?
are
It's
out,
just a nice.
Lexis King beats him. It's really
If he gets like a really humiliating loss, which arguably I know the man himself disagreed vehemently on Twitter, right? But I think a lot of people shared the same opinion of, especially given the pre-match, that should have just been done and dusted. Like, very easy work for Swerve. If they have Dustin Rhodes go, oh, Dustin Rhodes is back, and he's going to wrestle on Dynamite, and he gets his arse handed to him, like, really unceremoniously. That's quite embarrassing. Then the next week, sort of require weekly profiling of a character that you don't forget about, so it's pie in the sky thinking at this point. The next week, he's like, I hated that. Jesus Christ, that was humiliating. I didn't realize how close I was to the end. I need to redeem myself. I cannot put in performances like that anymore. The next time I lose, I'm gone. I cannot live with that. And then he starts to win, and then matches go a bit longer, and he maybe even flirts the title shot, and then out of nowhere, just gets done. And then bye-bye.
Christian Cage is like, is your dad alive?
Yes.
Great question. Lots of people are saying we should answer it from Andrew Hope. Thank you for your question, Andrew. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New Year.
What are your thoughts on the New Japan 5-on-5 cage match announced? They have to do 2 rings, right? And are you guys excited for it?
Well, they don't have to do 2 rings. If you Google now, New Japan steel cage, you will see an image of a New Japan ring, funnily enough. And then like a longer gap between the ring skirt and the cage wall, like probably double gap between the cage wall and the ring. The idea being you get some stuff going on in the ring, and then you've got like loads and loads of space for like Ospreay to like run up and moonsault off, or for like Gabriel Kidd to just repeatedly slam someone's head into it. If there's enough space between the wall and the skirt, the apron and the cage wall, you can have loads and loads of like brawling, like proper, honest to goodness brawling. Hamflet made the comparison. If it looks like, and it should be worked like, the ROH CZW Cage of Death, which is the best war game style match ever. I love 1992 as much as the next guy. That's a better match. It just is. Better story,
It's
more
got proper
violence.
stories in it. Yeah.
Like, just, it's sick. It's absolute tits. If you haven't seen that match, go and watch it
All
now.
things for free online. You can watch it legally for free on YouTube.
Goddamn great. It's on the official channel as well.
I think it is, yeah, because it was to pay off like realistically the best wrestling invasion story ever as well, with Ring of Honor.
So well done.
It, yeah,
and it totally embarrassed the WCW, ECW invasion. So I said in this office downstairs before out loud, it's my most anticipated match of the year that's been announced thus far, or even teased. That isn't happening at Mania, obviously. Yeah. I think it'll be class, obviously, but the War Dogs will win it. What was the rest of the question? Just, are you hyped?
Yeah, you hyped for it. Yeah.
I've been tits off the hype, man.
this is a battle in the valley as well, isn't it?
Is it?
Is that right? It's not, or is it in Japan?
I don't know where it is, actually. Well, do you want to research that?
I'll have a look, yeah.
I asked that because they're stacking that card. And Wrestle
They're doing
Kingdom...
Chicago after as well. No, they're doing the Win Trust.
Ah, are they?
Huh?
As in the Sears Centre, as in All In?
As in Revolution 2020 as well.
Oh.
So what have they got for that then?
I don't know now. But like coming out of Wrestle Kingdom, I'd be lying if I said, right, I'm racing. And Wrestle Kingdom and New Year Dash. But off the back of those shows, I would be lying if I said, right, I'm racing to watch the next New Japan show. But they grasped a little bit of the conversation back because it wasn't just great matches. It wasn't just signings. It was both.
Same thing happened last year.
Did it with like new signings though, with people like Dolph in New Japan is interesting once. I don't want to watch Riddle, but loads of people do. Like
I don't want to watch.
This cage match is weird.
I think Ziggler's played a smart play.
I agree.
Can we talk about Dolph Ziggler?
It's the right place.
Once?
It's the right place for him, and I don't just say that because it means that I don't have to keep up all the time.
Ospreay's last match?
Yes.
February 11th at New Beginning in Osaka.
New beginning. Is that when the cage match is?
I believe so, yeah.
Right, okay.
I love that. I want to see
That's
a
better.
cage match in Japan.
Yeah.
How many cage matches have you seen in America for the past however many years?
Yeah.
Like, I want to see that in Japan. I want to see the Japanese audience react to it. Dolph Ziggler's smart. If he can get over and be good in New Japan, how much cooler is the prospect of him in AEW?
You see his mini movie?
I saw it. I saw it. Looked like Jack Burton. Almost jacked it there and then.
Kicked his brother's head off.
Kicked his brother's head off. He's got the Jack Burton look. Almost jacked it then and there.
Aye.
But if he can, it was crap, obviously, but he looked like the guy in Big Trouble in Little China. If he can be good in New Japan and get over and be like, oh, the guy, kind of like the guy you thought he could have been all those years ago, maybe. What an asset he could then be to AEW if they need a kick in the ass, which I think they will more than once this year.
That is
Generous.
what a lovely and reasonable thing you've just said there. Because
very generous.
I was kind of waiting. I'd forgotten about it. Dolph has that effect on you, doesn't it? But when it happened, I was thinking, oh, I'm looking forward to like getting in the muck with this with Sidgwick about like, well, that's a window just cracked open for Dolph into AEW, and you brought it up first and said it might be good. So it really is New Year.
If he's crap in New Japan, I
Yeah.
don't want to see him anywhere. I don't want to see anyone new in AEW. I don't. But if he is good there,
Yeah, oh yeah. Mhm.
because if he comes,
It's the right landing spot for him.
if he turns up on Dynamite and gets interrupted in a backstage promo, it's death. It's death. It's more TNA pilled vibes. It's all sorts. But if he can get cool and rehab that aura, shut up, man. You like Seth Rollins, so why don't you suck my cack?
Yeah, there's.
And you like Edge as well,
On off.
Mr. Cool.
Dr. Ben, Mr. Cool.
He is Mr. Nicholas. I did say he is Mr. Cool, though, isn't he? Apart from his taste in wrestlers.
That's true, actually. He likes Hangman Page, so that's there.
Yeah. Speaking of TNA, by the way, thanks to everyone in the comments. Mark Nadeau and DJ Rando pointing out Battle in the Valley is next weekend, the same day as Hard to Kill for TNA, of course.
Hard to kill, and they are. Murray was telling me this morning that apparently Scott Demore walking it back slightly, but the poster literally says, "You won't believe who showed up at Hard to Kill." I can't wait for this. Like, this is proper. TNA. It's back.
Who could it be?
I don't know. Who's it like?
It's not money.
Goldberg.
TNA, not even booked one show as the returning TNA, and they're Gabba in already.
Aye.
I love it.
Yes.
The Golden Era's back.
Grizzly Young Vets on that show, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
They're getting raves for their first return to the indie. They're like tag stuff people. I don't know if it's people are glad to like not have them.
It's almost like-
or
It's
what it
almost
is.
like not putting them in that stupid stable.
Scouser Kane.
Just Darrell says, speaking it into existence, the Chicago Bears are in talks to build a new stadium right now. WWE like to set attendance records. I'm calling it WrestleMania in Chicago since you won't come here for AEW.
Jesus Christ. Punk getting a Mania in Chicago.
I've never been to Chicago.
It's goated.
I want to go to Chicago. Chicago. All I'm saying is it's on the bucket list.
Final few questions. DJ Rando also mentioned Danielson versus Nigel at Wembley. Is that what they're doing this year, do you reckon?
I hope so. Actually, I don't know.
Nigel's really grafting for it, isn't he? So like
It would
Drafted
be
for it last year. Yeah.
that he's doing a great job of convincing people that it's the move. Like,
Every
a great
single
job.
collision, isn't it? It's just
It would be like such a wonderful story if he can get in shape, if his brain's right for it. And
he looked the business in his gear, didn't he?
look, the absolute bloody business. He's in it to win it. I'll say that about Mick.
To win it.
If they can get, like, the way he's going about it is like such a dickhead in a really cool way. But then the pathos of, oh, he actually deserves this, and it could be lovely.
It's going to be like red hot if at some point like Danielson slides out the ring and just wallops him across the face. That'll be earned. Like, or Nigel's at the desk, headset on, and Dan slaps off his frigging head, and like
McGuinness out of nowhere just decides to cheat in one of his matches. Like if Danielson does this gimmick where it's like, right, am I one of the best in the world anymore? I've got a finite amount of dates left. You know what? I'm going for a frigging title. And he build it up. International title or, one of the other 8.
Yeah.
And then McGuinness is just like at his most hater energy. Why am I talking like 19 years old, 38. At his most defensive and jealous, okay?
McGuinness is really slaying.
Like, cannot win. You cannot win the title. You cannot do it. No. And then he just headset down, drags the referee. 1, 2. Danielson's going to win a title. His first one in AEW. 1, 2. Fuck this. Fuck this. And then he just puts the headset down, sprints over to the ref. 1, 2. Gets the legs.
Here's a surprisingly good example of this.
I should book this year.
The wrestlers in this example, I cannot compare to Danielson or Nigel McGuinness, but I thought it was surprisingly effective remember when Jericho just like brushed into JBL and you thought JBL was proper retired. It was like Jericho just come back, save us Y2J.
Randy Orton wasn't champion. Yeah.
And JBL.
It's Stone Cold.
Yeah. JBL was raging. And it was like he got up and he was the one that screwed Jericho. It led to a terrible feud featuring terrible matches between terrible wrestlers, Chris Jericho, who just returned, and JBL, who should have stayed retired. But I was really shocked. It felt like a transgression. It was like, no, you're done.
Yeah.
You're not a threat anymore. I don't need to worry about you coming up and shitting up main events. Oh, God, you're there.
Final couple of questions. Also, DJ Rando says, I really want to know Sidgwick's thoughts on the Devil reveal and the Adam Cole. We'll talk more about that on the AEW Collision review podcast.
Getting ready to get the claws out there.
A little bit later on. Andy says...
Wherever you get your podcast from.
The outrage to WWE
Not
winning...
YouTube.
The outrage...
Not that one.
The outrage to
WWE
winning several Wrestle Purist Awards is hilarious. While it was strong booking, did they peak higher in ring in the 2010s?
Sorry, what's the question exactly?
I think he's talking about the people getting outraged that WWE won some Wrestle Purist Awards.
So the Wrestle Purist Awards went out on X overnight.
I voted in them.
I voted, yeah.
I voted in them. And WWE won Best Promotion, and Triple H won Cooker of the Year.
Quite right.
And people were, no. So that's the context. What's the question?
Did they peak higher in ring in the 2010s?
The Fed? Christ, no.
Like the 2010s? What, compared to now?
I assume so.
NXT at its in-ring best was faker feeling than the kind of in-ring that WWE is doing now. There was some I'd put Sasha and Bayley. I think
they did.
Sasha and Bayley at TakeOver Brooklyn was the best match of the 10s. But it was way more of an outlier at the time.
Yeah.
I think the stuff they're doing now, I'd take the stuff they're doing now more. I don't need the concentrated amount of classics that you were getting out of a TakeOver in, say, 2018 versus just a far superior product. WrestleMania 39, like Sid said it, like outside of the finish, it's better than 17. And I would put Night 1 and Night 2, Cody and Roman included, as better than 17. Like, I think they are. I need a whole lot more than I need. Like Meltzer bit, like Meltzer star bit, and that was, I think, when I'm assuming, when he's referring to like the 2010s in-ring peak, I'm assuming that's what, could be my misunderstanding of that there, but I think
less bragging rights.
I think the Fed in 2023 is the best it's been in 2000 in every single category, and that's why I back it as being like these awards. I think it's going to be really funny when Tony Khan wins Booker of the Year in the Wrestling Observer, by the way.
When is that? When do those...
I want him so desperately to win that. For the
votes are, you're allowed to vote on it now if you're a subscriber.
Okay. I think the crack on X will be amazing if Tony Khan wins that, so I want that. These are all meaningless. It's fan votes and media votes and whatever. I think the Fed smoked AEW in every category in 2023.
Not matches.
And I feel it about matches, and I'll welcome the debate and the disagreement.
And he is talking about NXT, he says, stretch to say Raw was the weekly show of 2023, though. Handled characters and stories best, in my opinion.
Well, first of all, Danielson, ZSJ, Danielson, Starks. I mean, no, stupid. Obviously, AEW is better in the ring. Don't be so. It's no debate.
Gunther, Sheamus, Drew.
Yeah,
top both
Danielson
of them.
was better than both of them. So,
Shane Miz.
what I'm about to say is, if you put how over the characters are, how much trust is in the process, how they've just got their shit together, right, under Triple H, and you combine that with the superior matches of the 2010s, like Bryan Lesnar, Bayley Sasha, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, TLC, Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston, WrestleMania 35.
Gargano, Cole, take over.
Yeah, like they were better in the ring in the 2010s. But now you have way more basic exposition, monologue, heavy fare. But the people are with it. They're not, these matches aren't outliers. These matches aren't what you get after putting up with it. You know what I mean? The vibe's better now, but I think the match quality, if I was to do a 10 best matches of the WWE 21st century, right, the 2010s would dominate over the 2000s and over the 2020s.
It does create that like conversation about what makes a great match as well, doesn't it? Like I think like I would like those examples Sid just listed there, I would hold them up against anything. But I would rather an inferior in-ring match, like on strictest terms in-ring of like inferior to Kofi and Bryan, and just really enjoy the build and look forward to the payoff rather than be stressed that Vince McMahon is going to lose interest in Kofi Kingston for 3 months. That was a miserable time, and that match was driven as much by the relief that they were actually going to give you it. 35 in general was oh my God, they've given us it, you know. Like Nicholas's point about, well, what's going to come for the next 5 years? It's, I don't know, like I don't think, I was thinking about this a lot as we hit the end of the year. I think what was one of my favourite things about 2023 is how much of it will hold up versus those matches basically holding up the company.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't, like every one of these, like it's been 5 years since this Raw moment from 2018. We're hitting 2019 now. We're going to be getting 5-year engagement posts on X about like 5 years ago today. Gary the Goat Garbutt. Oh. Like that's wrestling at its worst.
We
like
were podcasting at the time.
Yeah.
I was livid ahead of Danielson Lesnar because on principle, the idea that they had to turn Danielson heel in under a year after that comeback, you can't, in good faith, say that Vince McMahon was an effective booker or promoter for doing that. A year. Jeez, are you joking? You couldn't even go a year without
WrestleMania Survivor Series.
And I've got fond memories of that match because it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And yet it was still flawed. A heel Danielson going up against Lesnar. You had the perfect match. Just as well Danielson's as great as he is.
JAF Gator says, as someone who was in attendance that night, it felt like the turning point for AEW was Punk going over Page. Having the vet beat the guy the promotion was built around. Curious for the boys' thoughts.
It's one of those, like, yeah, I'm with you. It's one of those strictly, like, if you want to be, like, weirdly objective about the subjective escapism that you liked. Made all the business sense in the world to put the title on the guy who drove the biggest pay-per-view buys. It wasn't like the WWE thing as well, where you bring in, I don't know, ex-part-timer, because Punk was really over in the buildings as well, and he was there every single week.
And it worked. It was a ranking story.
Yeah.
It's almost an unrecognisable AEW in the fact that, like, this...
He wrestled every week, and
this
the
was how
character
you were
ended,
supposed to...
and Punk was incredibly over. It was a bit, it's different now. A bit different. Like, not bad, not damaging, not necessarily soul-destroying, but it did bring into focus different company now. Very different company, and I just wish it wasn't this way.
I think it's impossible to analyse it knowing what we knew as well. Like, I remember watching that, and just as a Punk fan and having loved the Punk comeback story, just feeling like I was in the fiction of it. He's beaten him. Amazing. He's won the title. Wonder what Page will do next, try and win it back. I was just absorbing the fiction of it.
Yeah.
And then within days, like, Punk blows his foot out doing that stupid dive, and then that's all up in the air. And then as time goes on, you realise that there's this weird rift with Page, and then all that, like, you have to, it's impossible not to think about that now, because if it wasn't all different, and it wasn't that allegedly Punk had said, well, I'm not putting you over now. After what you said in that promo, I can't trust you, so I'm not putting you, I'm not losing this match, in this title match. Then when we know that, it's going to transform AEW.
Yeah.
But if it was just a title change, because it was time to change the title, it might have been fine. You know what I mean? It's like, we'll never know what that timeline looks like.
Final question comes from Chris Tienken. I think Chris has asked this several times. Apologies for I kept missing this. Very simple. How do we get to Jimmy versus Jay at Mania?
I'll let you handle this.
I think we're pretty much there. I think you have the Royal Rumble is a great opportunity to have the first exchange with them.
The Cena Orton spot.
Yeah.
But good.
Like the Cena Orton spot, but good. And it will be good and it will be hot. I think people want to watch this. Jimmy Uso is like, I think what they're going to do in the Rumble is send Jimmy and Solo out there to try and protect Roman's title match. So they have a little run of eliminations or whatever. And then Jay comes out and, I'm thinking like Austin sat on the post and putting his hands on his head when Brett's music hits. Something like that for Jimmy. The one thing I didn't think about was that Jay's still yet to come out and then they have a nice face-off, whatever. And it's...
1 and 2?
I don't think so. It's a mid-match spot for me, this. I think like the crowd are into it. I don't think either of them are particularly believable winners. It's more about that little moment where they get together.
It's really hard to win from number 1.
And then I don't think... most of the story's been told, hasn't it? Like Jimmy is the clown heel at this point. So him being on SmackDown to try and avoid Jey Uso at all costs is like a little fun weekly runner until Jay gets his way. They did it with Dominic and Ray, and they've kind of followed the same platform here. It's the delaying tactic. It's Jimmy probably not wanting the fight and trying to tell you, I don't need to fight Jay Movi, when really we can see that he's absolutely terrified of finally having to eat for what he did to him last summer.
Well, thank you, everyone, for your questions and for your donations. Always much appreciated. We'll do this again next Monday, and we'll continue the conversation with us on X at What Culture WWE. Well, actually, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow Michael Sidgwick at
M. Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam William. Follow our brilliant producer at It's Adam Nicholas. Follow us all at What Culture WWE. As I said, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. But for now, thank you for all your questions. My thanks to Hamlet, to Sidgwick, to Nicholas. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.